Students of 8th class, we are taking up this video as a revision for your first term, and the chapter is 1, that is Advent of Modern Age. So students, as the introduction, we discussed about the modern age, that it was a transition from the medieval to the modern period in Europe and was a gradual process and did not happen abruptly but gradually. The modern period in India began much later than Europe, only unless and until the British introduced many reforms here in India in the late 19th century. And the people began to learn about nationalism, liberty, equality, fraternity, and democracy. And people became a little bit educated and got Western education. Inspired by the West eminent social reformers brought about Indian Renaissance. So students, towards the end of the Middle Ages, many changes were going on in Europe. Like a feudal system, disintegration of feudal system we discussed. So once more, it's a breaking away of feudal system and the social structure got changed, and many of the farmers shifted themselves to the cities for working in the industries. So we have three four sources, that is the Renaissance and then Reformation, Counter-Reformation in the Catholic Church, and the outcome of Reformation was Counter-Reformation as well the creation of Protestant churches. And this was a great change in Europe. And due to this, because they follow each other, Renaissance follow Reformation and Reformation follow Reformation. So with this, what happened? Wages began. With wages, discovery of new lands began, exploration of new lands, sea routes, and all that. So many rulers financed the merchants to move from one place to another. And this way, there was a new awakening among the people in this century. And this brought nation states. That means people no more began to obey the Pope or were subjugated under Catholic, but they became nation state where nationalism was grown in them. Then we had sources which gives us information. There are two kinds of sources, one primary sources and secondary sources, like original document, first-hand accounts on topic, manuscripts, letters, newspaper reports, paintings, photographs, interviews, monuments, artifacts are. And secondary sources are created by interpreting the primary sources, scholarly books, articles, interpretation, and so on. So these were the sources. Now, we understood the meaning of Renaissance. It was rebirth and also a great change, an awakening and revival of old classic teaching. And there were three terms even we discussed on Tuesday in the Zoom class regarding this chapter. Monday and Tuesday we discussed and revised this chapter. And once more, I am sending you video on YouTube for the revision so that you can check. I have explained you what is rationalism. I have explained you twice what is humanism, scientific spirit, and spirit of inquiry. And also, there were some factors responsible for nonsense. That is, Turks captured Constantinople. I have explained you this very well. Decline of feudalism have been explained. Crusades, discovery of new trade routes, invention of printing press. All these things have been explained to you very well. So you go through this one. Then meaning of reformation. That means many reformers criticized the church and its practices and began new churches called Protestant churches. And then when Catholic Church realized this one, there was a counter reformation within the church, a change within the church. Then I have already discussed wages and discovery. Vasco da Gama discovered new sea route. Bartholomew Diaz, uh, Christopher Columbus found a new land uh, called North America and South America. Okay, and many Ferdinand Magellan, Amerigo Vespucci went after the Christopher Columbus and named North America as Amerigo named it America. The name is after Amerigo. So then we discussed about the Industrial Revolution. Okay, from handmade things to machine-made goods, which brought a bulk of goods in the world, and this was a great change. And this there was a growth of capitalism also. The owner were few and the laborers were more. That means there was a gap between the rich and the poor with this. So then it started giving way to a new system called the factory system in place of simple tools and use of animals and manual power. New machines, transportation, steam engines, and so on were used for carrying the goods from one place to another. Now the question arises: the Industrial Revolution began in England. How? And I explained you that England had many colonies in Asia, in North America, in Australia, and African countries, and raw material was available for England, and moreover, it was center of the world. Prime meridian falls in England. The climate was favorable. The people were hardworking. So everything was in favor of England. That's why the Industrial Revolution began in England, and also inventions took place. With that, the Industrial Revolution began. So we also discussed about major inventions: steam engine, then cotton gin, and here are many: flying shuttle, water frame, mule, power loom, cotton gin. These all were new inventions which brought a great change and brought industrial revolution in the world, in European world. Okay. Now then we discussed about what was the impact of industrial revolution. The industrial revolution resulted in mass production of variety of goods which be consumed within a country and outside country, even overseas. And India became one of the market of finished goods. Industrialization resulted in trade and commerce on a large scale. Merchant group of merchant went from one country to another, and the government supported them. And the East India Company came to India with this. The Industrial Revolution brought countries and people together. Yes, the Industrial Revolution brought countries and people together. It led to the rise of new industrial capitalists who were the owners of means of production. And it resulted the coming of capitalism and socialism. Capitalism means the study of ownership of goods production, and socialism try to understand about the labors, how they work, feeling of the laborers, the poors, working for them. Then, students, we discussed about imperialism, establishing rule and dominance over the economic and political life of the people of another country is called imperialism. And even Monday and Tuesday, I explained you the causes of rise of imperialism. We have already revised very well surplus production. So enough production was brought about uh, from the industries. So it was sufficient for Germany, for Portugal, for Spain, for France, for England to produce more goods. So they want to sell to the other countries and bring profit to the country. and for themselves. And also they needed raw material. That's why they captured small and poor country where the political system was weak, especially in India. Development of modern transportation and communication also was the main cause of rise of imperialism. Then rise of industrial capitalism. The merchants and traders looked for expanding their business because they had invested it. Then there was ardent nationalism. People, rich people, normal soldiers, everyone had the love for the country in this age. And this brought them that they could go and capture places and sell the goods and increase the economy of the country. Even contribution of the Christian missionaries also brought about imperialism. And there was a new civilization mission of the Europe. Okay, Europe considered in their divine task to spread modernized or modernization, culture, and so on. And we have already understood about geographical exploration and discoveries. New routes were found, new lands were found, and so on. Now, what were the effect of imperialism in those countries where the countries were captured by the rich countries? Imperialism led to impoverishment, poverty of Asian and African countries. Industry got ruined, declined. India was badly declined in industry and trade. Otherwise, India was Sone ki Chidiya, rich in trade, textile, spices. So our resources were exploited like anything, and the whole wealth was drained to England. That was a great impact of imperialism on our country. Okay, and our goods could not compete with the machine-made goods. And there were positive side also of imperialism. There was education, there was health improvement, there was new transportation and communication, new roads, new railways, telegraphs, and system were introduced in the colonies. This brought a modernization also. Now, there was impact of South Asia. Generally, we discussed the same points can be discussed in uh, impact of South Asia also, students. Especially, it brought a nationalism, a term of nationalism to the people of colonies. That means India, Sri Lanka, African countries, a new concept of nationalism and democracy, liberty, fraternity. People could understand the Western education, and this way led them modernization of these countries. China, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Malaya, these all Southeast Asian countries were ruled by either Dutch, Portuguese, England, French, and so on. So there were great change after this imperialism. So that's all of your this revision chapter. Go through your question answers. We have already learned thrice. Twice we have revised, and we have heard on the video lecture also. So I think you must be thorough with this chapter. Goodbye. Wish you all the best. Bye bye. And we'll be revising the next chapter in the next video. Thank you.